Commission meeting of Tuesday, August 13th. It's called to order. Roll call.
Mrs. Donano?
Present.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Holton?
Here.
Mrs. Burdick?
Here.
Ms. Redding?
Here.
Chairman Yem?
Here. Okay, approval of minutes for July 9th, 2013. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Okay, good moves.
I'll second.
Judy seconds. Discussion. Anybody have any changes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous. Citizen input. This is a chance for the public to come up to the microphone and speak. If you desire to come, please give your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. President of the Vero Beach Lifeguard Association, 1351 White Lane, Vero Beach. Would like to give our monthly beach report, as we do every month, letting you guys know
Eric,
what's.
I don't think your microphone's working.
It is. It was off here,
How's
but
it?
it's on now.
Okay. As we do every month, we stand up here and we talk about what's happening at the beach to keep everybody informed. Prior to doing that, I'd like to officially thank the City Council for unanimously voting to not cut funding for the lifeguards. I think that was great. Yeah. So we want to thank all the City Council members for that. We also would like you to know that we had the lifeguards had their first stand-up paddleboard rescue in July. The stand-up paddleboards were a donation from VBLA to the city. We had a situation where a couple of folks having a good time at Driftwood decided to take a swim out to the shipwreck on a northwest wind blowing probably 10, 12 miles an hour, not knowing that it was 350 yards probably out there. So our guys at Humiston saw that they were in trouble. They were hanging on to the flagpole for dear life, which is not unusual. So they took the stand-up paddleboard. One of the guys went out there and was able to put the girl on the rescue board and bring her back. The gentleman decided that he was okay and would swim back. That didn't work out too well because he got tired. Luckily, Scott Cavaness here from Sharkbait Beach Gear Rentals took his kayak, his two-person kayak, and went out there and helped the gentleman in. So it was a dual effort. Thank you very much, Scott, for that. And the stand-up paddleboard was put to good use. So there you go. The month of July 2013, we had 18 rescues. We were very busy. The first 2 weeks of July, a big, wide, deep trough formed along our coastline, and that really created a lot of major rip currents. So we were out there 18 times. That's not including the number of people that the lifeguards saved. That was incidents. On a number of occasions, there were multiple rescues in one incident. So I'd like to get a breakdown maybe come August with the number of actual people that were rescued in relation to the incidents that happened. We had 72,000 plus patrons visit our 3 city beaches. A lot of jellyfish stings out there now, mostly from the larger jellyfish, not necessarily a man of war, since they're not jellyfish. But regardless, we're definitely seeing calmer water now. Things are slowing down a little bit as far as the rip currents and stuff. So, but the lifeguards remain diligent. We also wanted to, and of course, if anyone needs a copy, you can go on our website. And I pretty much think I email everyone here. If you want to be on the email list, please just go to our website, email us, and you'll get this report the first few days of every month. The fourth thing I want to briefly talk about is the Vero Beach Lifeguard Association was established in 2011. We're on our 2-year anniversary this past 11th of August. Our mission is to support lifeguarding and water safety. We've had a lot of water safety classes this summer. And one of our goals for probably next fiscal year is, since our goal is water safety, is to lobby for Humiston Park to be brought back to 9 to 5. Funding restored. We're seeing a lot more people on the beach, especially Central Beach. There's just a lot of people. And we would like to be proactive rather than reactive. So we'd like to lobby for that. We also are going to look into United States Life Saving Association affiliation. So the VBLA will be associated with the USLA. We think they're a fantastic group. And we're just looking to get more equipment for the guards, find out what they need, and go from there. And we want to just invite everybody. Last thing, we want to invite everybody. We have 3 fundraising events in August. The first one is on the 24th of August at Macy's. So if any of you ladies, not to discriminate, but
Tell them what you're doing.
we're doing a little fashion show. Macy's has asked the lifeguards to do a fashion show. So those brave souls will be up there 1 o'clock, August 24th in Macy's, doing all the latest and greatest fashion. So that's going to be a fundraiser for VBLA. That's going to be nice. No snickering, please. And the following weekend, we have 2 things going on. We have the skimboarding competition, Skim Jam 2013, in front of Mulligan's Beach House Bar and Grill. The Skim Jam folks have decided that VBLA will be a recipient this year of their proceeds, which is fantastic. So that's 8 o'clock Saturday, the 31st of August. And you can go to our website for that too. And then lastly, for August, the following day, it's going to be a nice long weekend, Labor Day weekend. We have our 3rd annual Poker Run Bar Crawl starting at Waldo's and going to various establishments. So you all are welcome. We'd love to see you. We see council people there every year, so we hope to see you guys too. Support it, have a good time, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, new business. Rob, you want to introduce?
Sure. The first person up is going to be Paul Tripaldi. This is regarding lifeguard tower advertising, and to let you know, we met with Paul, city manager, and a number of department heads on July 15th, and Paul had some great ideas, possible ideas for advertising at some of our lifeguard stations, so I'm going to hand it off to Paul.
Thank you, Rob. Paul Tripaldi, 1545 Wind Cove Lane in Vero Beach, Florida. Everyone should have a little handout with some pictures on it. If you don't, let me know and I can get it to you. It looks like that. Good afternoon, Park and Recreation Board members and guests, and thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to meet with you today to discuss this city ads program on the lifeguard towers and potentially some other city collateral around town, including the marina. I am the owner of iLevel Digital ad agency. We're located right here in Vero Beach. 90% of our clients come from Vero Beach. Local businesses, a lot of local nonprofit organizations located in and around Indian River County and the city of Vero Beach. We're also the exclusive ad agency for the Go Line Transit here in town. So whenever you see an ad on the side of a bus, we do those, as well as we have digital screens inside the buses that do some ad programming and some info. And we also have some ad screens around town at some of the resorts and some of the restaurants. We operate this network of screens throughout this county, St. Lucie County, and a little bit in Martin County as well. So a successful zero-cost ad revenue program for the city, like the Go Line and Community Coach program, is really predicated on the ability to attract local, regional, and then national, in that order, ad clients. And adhering to a strict ad policy as we do already for the transit. And then having a conscious effort to connect with the local nonprofits, because there are so many in our town, in our county. Making the affordable campaigns available to the local businesses and nonprofits in and around the city of Vero Beach not only contributes to the continuation of their rebound out of our last 4-year economic downturn, but also provides, again, a true zero-cost revenue option for the city of Vero Beach and hopefully some line items for the Park and Rec Department. I thank you for this opportunity. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Yes.
What are these ads going to be made of for display?
We typically, in some of the examples that you see there, we're using a very similar material that we use on the buses, which is a vinyl. It's a 3M material. It's a laminated, so it's protected from UV, and depending on where they're going would depend on the thickness and any backing that might be needed for them.
So that you'll still determine exactly what particular areas that will be.
Yeah, we had already actually gone out and kind of measured some things and looked at the backings. What we always do, as we do with the local transit, is we make sure that the attachment of the ad does not impact the surface that it's going on. So whether it's a clip, a removable clip, a grommet, a zip tie, and or adhesion, all of which...
His microphone is turned way the wrong way. Thank you.
So again, to answer the question as to what we finally decide is really all dependent upon the location of the ad, but there's a conscious effort made to making sure they're easily removable too.
Thank you.
Who outlines the parameters of who can advertise?
Well, we have an existing ad policy that we use with the county. So items such as alcohol, firearms, those things are not allowed in our existing ad policy, as well as political ad campaigns and things of that nature. It's really common sense. No pornography and things like that, obviously.
And that is something that we could establish, is that you know what we wouldn't approve of.
Absolutely, and then you add that to the ad policy, sure.
Okay, and how do we collect revenue on that?
As we currently do it with the county, we do all the billing, we do all the sales, we do all the installation, and
is it a percentage?
Yes, it's a percentage, and the range would be between 18 and 25% on a graduated basis. So the way we do it with the county is we started at a lower percentage, and we worked our way up over a 3-year period, each year increasing to that final mark.
I don't understand that. Explain that to me.
So you would be getting between 18 and 25% of each ad revenue monthly.
And that is something we would negotiate prior to be started?
Correct.
Okay, and is this a contractual, a year?
We currently have a 3-year. The reason why it's important to kind of do 3, 4, or 5 years is there's a lot of upfront costs that we're absorbing as an ad agency, because there's zero cost to the city and or the county, meaning we provide all of the vinyl. We get billed for the vinyl. We don't pass it on to the client, nor do we pass it on to the municipalities.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just had a question, Jim. So looking at the numbers that are presented here, let's just take what they are as 3,800 and 1,000. Let's call it $4,800 a month per potential. Does that goes into your enterprise fund, and it's not part of your regular budget, and you're not going to reduce his budget accordingly because you suddenly have this new revenue stream?
The answer is that goes into the enterprise fund. Now, sometime in the future, would that reduce the general fund contribution? I doubt it, because we seem to be increasing the general fund contribution. But what it's doing, it's building on the resource that we don't take it and pay for police officers or something else. So I think it gives the flexibility that you all were looking for as to what you would opt. So it does go into the enterprise fund. That's where the revenues are generated.
Good.
Jim, I have another question for you. If we were to recommend something like this, is it typical that we would put this out as a bidding type situation so other agencies would have the opportunity to bid on doing this work for us? Would we just be able to work with one organization, or how does this work?
It would be RFP, and I think we've talked about that. The vendor seems to have no objection to us doing an RFP similar to what the county did. I would anticipate doing that same type of process because it really isn't professional services, so I think we would need to do that.
And has the council talked about this?
Only in general conversation. There has been no direction given from council. I think we're looking for recommendations from the Recreation Commission that would take forward to the City Council.
And can I just ask your opinion?
I think it's a great idea. As long as we control the type of ad that goes on there. Now, Lynn, you got to understand, I'm looking at the numbers and trying to project where we're going in the future and how we raise revenues. You know, in an ideal world, having advertising on a lifeguard stand is not my ideal scenario, but at the same time, I see them on buses that we're doing, and I see that if we put them on the lifeguard stand, and as long as we don't have something that's obnoxious, but from there, Little League Baseball does it, high school baseball does it, football, you know, they put stuff all over where they do advertising. So I think it's what is happening in today's world, and it's a recognition that you're going to have some other ways of generating revenue. One of the things the City Council said is sort of step out of the box and look at ways of doing this that don't impact directly the taxpayers. This is what does that. One of these days we may have some ads that would be on other facilities. Take Leisure Square. There may be something that you could get some type of swimming program that would want to send advertising on that. Because, you know, from my perspective, the swimming pool is no different than a football field and it's no different than a baseball field. And if monies can be generated doing things like that, we need to explore it. The good thing about this opportunity, it's going to put it in a very high visual area. And we're going to find out if the community accepts that as an option to other ways of funding. And so I think but we got to be very careful with it. As I said before, we need to figure out how
And
we're going to manage it.
with this area, does this marketing area report to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you would be setting the parameters of who we would want to advertise and not advertise and so forth?
It probably would be a team, but the way we have discussed it, when we do an RFP, assuming the City Council goes along with it, the responsibility would rest in the City Manager's office.
There's a whole laundry list of those things in this package.
Just in that draft ordinance
Right.
that Peggy put together just for you, just to answer some of those questions.
And based on the feedback we've gotten on the goal line, it seems to have worked very well. The vendor works extremely well with the goal line folks. Karen seems to be very happy with it, and it's a revenue producer for her. So based on that preliminary, and you know, it's one of those things that opens an opportunity. Again, this is, in my opinion, would be the first step.
I actually think it's a very good idea, but it seems like we have some very controversial areas in this city, which I would not want to see represented different points of view in our public parks. That's all.
And I totally agree with that. I mean, we do not want alcohol or that type of stuff advertised on our beaches. At the same time, we have a sign that says no alcohol, as an example.
Well, even as we've been talking about religion with the city council, something like that to me would be something that we wouldn't want to start.
Political signs.
Political
Yeah,
signs,
absolutely.
religious signs.
He's not in that business, so that we don't have to worry about that. And we're not going to, even on a national level, we're not going to have, Joe Smith for president or anything.
Well, even on the religious things that have been prominent in
This
the
level.
city.
As well in the existing policy.
Lynn, the ideal scenario and what we've talked about, and where he thinks he's going to sell most of his ads, are from the commercial establishments on the beach. If you're Costa, you might want to have your name on that, and to sort of get the name recognition for those people who are going to have the direct benefit of the beach exposure. And I think we have more than enough more than enough retailers and businesses down there, I think, that could fill up the lifeguard stands.
I got a couple of questions for you. based upon your projected gross, the city's net would be around $400 a month. Is that correct? Or less?
The gross is a range for two reasons. There's a little bit of a ramp-up period when you have a very new ad opportunity in any city. So the reason why I put a range in there is you don't quite know exactly whether you're going to get a $200 ad space for that 2x3 foot sign, or if you're actually going to be able to sell them at a little bit of a higher rate over a certain number of months. Each ad contract tends to vary a little bit based on number of months that they
but
do.
the numbers you gave us, you have three different
Your cumulative
ads in here, but the monthly gross of all three would be in the neighborhood of maybe $1,800, $1,000 you have on the marina, which really doesn't even come under our auspices.
I did the numbers based on right about 18%, and it'll go up to about 25%, again, negotiable. So you're going to be, for the towers, between, on a very low end, $300 or $400 a month, on the higher end of that at about $1,000 a month for just the towers.
All right, so we have five towers, right?
We have
three.
We have two towers in one building.
So he's talking. Yeah, you want to explain that. The towers, when you're talking about the towers, he's just talking about the two towers.
Right, so
he's talking about the lifeguard station, and all of these are lifeguard stations. So the two towers and then the lifeguard station over at Humiston. So start with the towers.
So on picture A, it shows, that's actually a picture of JC Park. So you multiply that number by 2, obviously, and you're going to be between $720 and $1,500 a month for the two towers. The one exists in JC and the one that exists in South Beach. The building under picture B is Humiston, and your ad opportunity there is a little limited because of what you have space-wise on the building, but between $100 and $200 a month when you estimate 18 to 25% of ad revenue. Under picture C, I've had a lot more pictures. There's a lot more ad space at the marina. In particular, I was debating whether to put the front of the marina office as I did in this, or a picture at the gas dock. There's about 120 boats a day that gas up at the gas dock, so that's actually probably a little bit of a better opportunity, and there's a lot more space in the rafters. And if you look in the rafters from a boater's perspective, when they're fueling, it's all eye level. And that's what you want.
Yeah, that actually comes under a different commission, though. The marina's a different commission.
Okay. So just as an example.
I'm just trying to figure out from the recreation, what are you talking about revenue generation?
And that's very true, Mr. Chairman. That's why I say this would be sort of the beginning of what we're doing, but there are potentials throughout the city that are not necessarily recreation.
So if
I understand that, but from the recreation use of land facilities, you're talking about maybe $500, $600 a month max.
It comes out annually between $13,000 and $23,000 a year with what you're looking at on this paper.
Yeah, but the marina doesn't fall into our area.
So 13 to 18 annually.
Well, you're giving me different numbers.
That's based on between 18 and 25% exactly.
No, you gave me two lifeguard towers that were $1,500 a month. Okay? And then the thing by JC Park. No, it's JC.
Rob, what are you shaking your head for?
Well, what it is if you look at A.
Oh, you're right.
When you look at A, he's saying that you get $2,000 to $3,000 per month for each tower, so you're going to get 4 to 6.
Yeah.
So you would go with your 18% or 25% times that amount. So for the two towers, you're looking at 4,000 to 6,000 times 18% or 25%.
That's correct.
And then when you go to B, which is Humiston, the station, he's looking at $600 to $800 for that, which would be 18 to 25% of that.
Between $100 and $200 a month.
Right. So his estimates there. I'm looking at if you split the uprights with the 2 to 3, you're looking at 18%. You're looking at 900, and when you're looking at 6 to 800, if you're looking at splitting that one 700, and you go with 20%, you're looking at 140. So you're looking at roughly his just on the low end. He's looking at on the A and B. You're probably looking at somewhere between 11 and 12.5.
That's exactly right.
Would there be any consideration for the fountain?
Well, I know, and that's one thing that Jim just mentioned too. The idea right now, I think, is, and I know Jim will correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea right now is, okay, this is an opportunity, a possibility, and these are high visible areas. We start with these and see how the public receives it, see how we receive it, see how the council receives it. If everybody's on board and everything looks okay, then you can look at other avenues, i.e. places, possibly even waste receptacles, things like that are out there.
That's exactly right. This will be the trial to see how well this would be received. We don't have any concept right now of expanding beyond this. We want to give this as our trial. We probably will build into the RFP the flexibility to expand, but at this particular time, those 3 sites are all that we're talking about.
Are you aware, are there any of these advertising on the beaches anywhere on the Treasure Coast?
I don't think on the Treasure Coast.
I couldn't find anything in the Treasure Coast. Maybe Paul can answer that one if he knows of any.
I think Cocoa Beach certainly has a lot of advertising on the beach.
Right, and again, we're fortunate to have based our policy locally from the county perspective, so probably a lot more conservative than what you see in Cocoa.
I was going to say, I would never want our beaches to look like Cocoa Beach because that is just, that's filled with advertising. And I would want to make sure that is something that doesn't happen here in Vero Beach because to me that is too much. And, it takes on almost more of a carnival type environment than a pristine beach type environment.
Sure.
So,
and we agree. And again, that's part of our plan. Again, the way we did it with the transit was we started local. My background, I was a business banker in town for a number of years. I worked for PNC Bank, and so I know a lot of the owners of the businesses. So it's easy for me to go locally to them and kind of get their feedback without too much trouble. So I envision it as being really a lot of the restaurants and the shops on Ocean Drive, and there's not a lot of ad space, so it's really going to be very, very local.
I see Mr. McGarry's here, if he would be kind enough to come up here and talk about commercialization of city property. Because I know you had a very long debate on just signs in the city. Way back, when did you do the sign ordinance a couple of months ago?
Well, we did the sign ordinance a couple of months ago, but this is a kind of a different perspective. As pointed out by Rob, Peggy Lyon had put together an ordinance. We have to go through an ordinance to enable the ability of the city to do these kind of signage. And a lot of the issues brought up about commercial signage, all the things about the First Amendment limits a lot what we can do. So basically you're setting up a non-public forum that allows us as the property owner to really decide the content, the copies, and everything else in the sign. And if you look at her draft ordinance, she has a lot of prohibitions. A lot of the things that, Lynn, that you brought up are in there already. But clearly the ordinance gives a lot of flexibility of how the city wants to move forward on this. And I think as the city manager pointed out, a lot of it will be whether the citizens want to see this. I agree. Too much signage, it gets really tacky. And we have some language in there. They want to keep Vero, and all that kind of thing. But a lot of that is going to be a policy decision set by the city. The ordinance gives them an opportunity to do it. One thing we do in the ordinance is we do exempt them from the sign regulations. However, the city has a lot of control over what will come out of this. Whether it's good or bad, I mean, it's an opportunity, and I think we just want to see if this will work or not and what support there is for it. So does that help you? I mean, I'm not a big sign fan, but I understand.
Well, first of all, my
at that
concern is I don't want to see all the parks littered with signs.
And I think you're going to see see a lot of that. What I mean, not littered with sign. You're going to see a lot of reticence to be in there to get in the park, because even though we declare these pieces of property a non-public forum, some of the parks are a public forum, so we're going to be very careful of where these signs would go. And I think this first start is a kind of a baby step to see how that'll go. You start expanding beyond that, then I think then you get some issues that other people are going to bring up, and I can fully understand that.
I think this actually will come back to council, because even this morning we saw the meeting where Amelie got up and spoke about, the forefathers here wanted to keep Vero as a different place rather than conforming and picking up all of basically the commercialization that we see in all the other cities.
Well, right now we're unless I'm giving other instructions, we're going to go to first reading for the council on the ordinance that you were given a copy, right, Rob? Everybody has a copy of this ordinance? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that. So we're going to first reading to see what sentiment we have. But as I said, we need to have this ordinance in place to do anything, and then however that goes is going to a lot depend as it goes through this through the process, as well as how we deal with vendors that want to come in, as this gentleman has offered or wants to do. So
we're really asking the question on the ordinance, not really on his proposal.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't want to get into that, because as I said, we're RFP, so there's going to be some competition where, that doesn't mean he wouldn't end up with it, but you know what I'm saying, that they've done the goal line, my understanding. And so that will be opened up. If you do an RFP,
you're really going to have to come back.
That's correct. So a lot of the issues you're bringing up, I think, is something you really want to get into when you do the RFP. You want to know what your return is and all that. It's a little difficult for a man who doesn't have a contract here to tell you all that.
I appreciate that, and that's why I don't want to put him on the spot.
Mr. Chairman, I think what we're really looking for is the concept approval. You have the ordinance, you see how we're going to try to tighten up, but we're asking the Recreation Commission for a recommendation back to the City Council. Either you like the idea or you don't. The concept of putting in advertising on a facility. The ordinance itself really is designed, and we'll take obviously comments on that, but it's designed to tighten up and to limit what access would be there.
Well, I just know the feedback I get on some of the other committees and stuff I'm on, that the quaintness of Vero Beach is one thing that has been established, almost since it was begun. And I can remember the difficulty of getting I-95 through Indian River County, partly because of the ability to keep it quaint. And the people wanted to keep it quaint. And I think as we go, we have to be very careful about commercialization of public, facilities, public lands. Based on the comments given to me, I would expect, or you're going to get feedback from some of the people that have been here a long time as far as the ordinance, because if they want to keep the quaintness here, they're going to have to keep these type of ordinances out. And I think that's why I'm fishing here. I think that's what you're fishing for, is to get the feedback.
That's exactly what we're doing here. Fishing, I guess, is an appropriate word since it's on the water. But actually what we're doing is, and Rob is one of multiple department directors that I've asked, how do we enhance our revenues? What are the opportunities? What are the things we can do? I mean, we're taking the hot dog stand down to South Beach. It's very little money, but little money after a while adds up to big money. So, and that'll be something unique. We're also going to be talking about bringing the chairs and umbrellas to our beaches. They're here tonight or today. And so these are opportunities that we're doing, and the Recreation Commission is only one of those. Using the marina, I mean, I don't think that Tim's going to have any real issues over there, assuming that the City Council has no issues. And there are things that you can, garbage trucks as an example, is another one of those rolling sign. And if it takes away from the quaintness, and that's what the City Council says, then that's the way it'll be. But we have to, in my opinion, have to explore the opportunities that are made available. and then we find what the limit is, and if the community doesn't want it, we go on to Plan B, and then we'll go to Plan C, and whatever it takes.
All right, so what are you asking us now, to move forward the ordinance, or?
No, the concept itself for record of the city council. What do you think about the concept of putting advertising on the lifeguard stand?
Specifically?
Correct.
Or narrowly.
And if you have something else that you want to say that you like or don't like advertising, or to explore the idea. I mean, I don't want to make the motion for you, but you see what our concept is, what we're doing, and I guess we're asking the Recreation Commission, what do you think about this idea?
I guess I'd like to ask Rob what his feelings are on this.
Well, knowing that I just went through, with the budget workshop, and also listening to Paul with the Senior Resource Association and what they've done, I think the idea is, we're in different times, and I think we're looking for more and more private enterprise to help out, offset costs. I know this is something that's going to be debated, but I think it's just, we're looking for a possibility if we can generate some more revenue that helps us, that helps maybe keep people working, and I think that with the right ordinance and how things are written up and checked, I think this is an opportunity for us.
If I may, just one piece of the process that's currently being used with the coach and the Go Line system, we have a project coordinator that is headed by Karen Deagle at the Senior Resource Association. Every single piece of artwork is emailed to her before it even gets to our printer. If there's anything in the artwork that she does not like, it does not even make it to the printer. So just because we're farming for advertisers locally and we obtain an advertiser, it does not guarantee, because our policy states so and the customer signs off on this, that it's ever going to make it on any bus until Karen and her team approves it.
I think that will be up. City Council will establish the guidelines on, who's going to be in the line of approval or disapproval.
Yeah, you have to have a project manager for that.
If they even want to go with a concept. Mm-hmm. But I think right now, for discussion purposes, we need to narrow it down to, I guess, the feeling of this commission on the concept.
I definitely think we should send it forward to the city council.
Speak up.
I agree that we should. I would like to see it a shorter trial time than 3 years, because if we get a lot of feedback from the citizens, it might cause some problems.
Before I voice my opinion, I would just like to ask Eric to come up and ask him his opinion on this, since he is part of our lifeguard team who's at the beach and certainly a protector of our beautiful beaches.
Thanks, Lynn, for that. I think if it's done tastefully and within reason and guideline, I don't think it would cause any problems as far as the look. I agree with you with Cocoa Beach and things like that. We're definitely not Cocoa Beach. We're Vero Beach. If it's done the right way, I think it could be managed well and everyone would benefit, especially lifeguards.
Thank you.
And that's what I was thinking, where the advertising is, the advertising at the beach or the advertising at the marina. And those cost centers are going to be getting the money. Maybe you should use it at those places. Use it for the lifeguards. The money generated from this.
Helps offset costs.
You guys make your recommendation to the city council on the budget, so you have your input, and that would be the time to do that and to allocate accordingly what you need to do. But obviously that you could make the argument you're raising the funding in that general area. I mean, Eric and the lifeguards obviously are generating revenues and equipment for the lifeguards through their own private sector, and so there is a lot of benefit to that. So,
right.
And used by that particular source. But when we start talking to the folks who are going to provide some of the chairs and stuff, we're talking about giving supplement help to the lifeguards as well, which will directly affect their opportunities. So, yes, I agree. The key is that the expenses are going to continue to rise on all of these facilities. And right now, there's only one real revenue stream that has any flexibility to the city council at all, and it's ad valorem taxes. I mean, you can cut through all of this other stuff, and we've become so reliant on our utilities that we've got to cut back there because we're going to get ourselves in as much hot water as we are with the electric. So the effort is you've got to start identifying how you're going to pay for this going into the future. And Sue, what you're saying is exactly right. If you start seeing a revenue center at a cost center, then there should be some way of directing that to offset those costs. Because I can assure you that if there's something that goes on the marina, they're going to use that to offset their costs. So,
if this ordinance is improved, I, as a vendor, can apply to the city.
No, sir. Oh, you're talking about as a vendor to sell?
Correct.
Yeah, you would.
Well, if I want to put an ad over in Riverside Park,
you would go to our vendor. We're doing RFP. The RFP is going to go to a vendor. We're going to set the guidelines in that proposal. One of the things that we're going to put in there is the city has the right to accept or reject whatever the ad is on the podium, on the lifeguard stand.
Now, here's my question. Now, I'm not talking lifeguard stands because this ordinance is for all municipal property.
Okay.
All right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but once this ordinance is approved, then again, I can apply to the city and say, I want to put a billboard, and I know it's not going to be approved, but a sign in Riverside Park.
No, sir.
As long as it conforms with the ordinance.
No, sir. That's not what it says. You would have to approve through the RFP, and whoever our vendor is, you have to go to them. Then that vendor takes your request, and in our RFP, and what we are going to restrict in that RFP are the locations in which ads can be placed. For example, in this first RFP and the contract we award to our vendor will be restricted to the lifeguard stations. That's all it's going to be.
Okay, but your ordinance addresses all municipal
It allows
property.
us to do that. It allows that.
Okay. But right now, under your RFP proposal, you're restricting it to the lifeguard standards.
That is correct.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But my question now becomes, because you have this ordinance that allows signage in municipal property or on municipal property, how do you determine who or when somebody can go to those properties or what can go?
If you'll notice that we have the right to accept or reject, and then when we do our RFP, it will give the exclusive right to that vendor.
Okay.
To work it.
Let me move on. I'm moving on beyond the lifeguard
But it would be
standards.
under a contract. No, under the contract, then the way we would have to give, the city would have to give approval to the vendor, the right to put an ad in Humison Park as an example. But only way is under that contract. The contract would control it, and you would have to go, if you came and said, I want Dick M's name in Humison Park, we would say you need to go to our vendor, and he would tell you Humison Park's not part of the contract.
Right, so your vendor for a lifeguard stand would control all municipal signage.
Yes, sir. That we would envision that would be a general contract with our vendor.
I have a hard time with that.
Well,
Okay.
we would have an agency representing all of
Exactly.
these places. Basically, Dick, is that we have an ad agency.
Who's working with our guidelines?
Right.
That's what we're
Right.
doing. And that contract, the contract agency limits what they can do.
Like for instance, when we got the Go Line contract, we thought it was common sense to maybe do advertising on the bus stops, but that wasn't included in the contract, so we can't. We get asked it all the time, but we can't. We're very, very specific to what is outlined in the contract, and even with what is said in the contract, final approval is always through the project manager, whoever that is.
Well, there's a big difference between what this proposed ordinance is versus what you're saying an RFP would contain.
The ordinances, and we have all kinds of ordinances that enable us to
I
do stuff.
understand that.
But only until you have a contract to do it, can you have the right to do it.
Okay, but then when you get into awarding this RFP, I mean, obviously the language in the RFP would be probably of greater concern than what this ordinance is.
Well, actually, the greatest concern will be the contract itself. The RFP is just going to say, give us a proposal.
understand.
And let's say we get 15 proposals. Then we're going to structure a contract around what we want to happen in those. And that contract's going to be, A, limit where it will be. B, it will tell them that the only signage that will go up is that approved by the city. Those will be two major things. Then they'll have other components such as our percentage of the ad share. If we want to have a price per month plus a percentage, and that's, I believe, what the county does. So there's many ways to structure that contract as to the way the payment will go, as an example. But the contract is what will really limit. He'll only be authorized, or they'll be only authorized to do this particular thing.
All right, so actually council's the one that's going to have to debate this out
Right.
with you,
Yeah, that is correct.
Jim?
That is correct.
parameters.
You know, initially I thought this is a great idea, but as I think about it now, I'm thinking, it is going to change the look of our beaches. It is going to, we're going to have billboards on our beaches, basically, which concerns me. I'm a little concerned that we are trying to find ways to generate revenue in this city because we have made some sort of commitment we will not raise taxes in order to support the services that we currently have. So we are looking at ways to, it almost seems to me like nickel and diming things. And I worry a little bit about nickel and diming things and changing the look of Vero Beach because we can't raise taxes to support the services we currently have.
Yeah, Lynn, if you look at Leisure Square, you talk about a place that needs some financial help. Mm-hmm. We need to nickel and dime things. We need to get some money so that everything doesn't fall into disrepair. We've got to do things. We're doing silent auctions. Bake sales. What can we do? This is a legitimate way to put some money in the bank so that we can continue services, that we can make improvements. I really think it's a good idea.
I just happen to be very proud of how our beaches look. That's all. And I've been to other beaches that have advertising, and you know what? They look different than our beaches.
There's no question. We have beautiful beaches. Some of the things that we are debating in some of our committees, what kind of fundraising activities do you have on the beach? Do you think about putting parking systems in? Everybody has parking systems. We're unique, and we're sort of one of those communities that free parking is a standard in what we've got. But somewhere along the line, there's a cost to putting a lifeguard stand up. There's a cost to running the irrigation along the street right away and in the medians. And you're right. The key is where do you generate that revenue? And I think that most taxpayers are asking us to look at other options and alternatives before you come to them. Right now, we're in the cutting business, and that's just the nature of where we are.
And I also worry about, who's making the decisions on what kind of ads are going to go up, whether it's you now or whether it's somebody else 10 years from now. Leaving it up to one person sometimes or a team of people rather than have no advertising at all.
Yeah. Somebody's got to make a decision.
Okay, I'll make a decision that we move this along one way or the other.
I've got a couple items put in. Jim, thanks for what you just brought up, and Paul, for both of you. What's been mentioned about the beaches? How about the boardwalk? The boardwalk itself, because there's a lot of people, they don't really go to the beach, but there's a lot of walking on the boardwalk.
Yeah, I think this is very, very specific to the lifeguard stands. There's restrictions that are also very, very specific, as well as what we do, again, with the transit, the size of the ad. And a lot of this is also based on what would be standards in the industry as far as what your policy would be. Where it's drilled down is that the county has made it pretty easy with being extremely restrictive of content. So the person making the decision is really looking at that policy, not making their personal decision on the artwork or what is in the ad, but is really looking to abide by the policy that's written, and that's why it works.
All right, I got to move this along time-wise. Since you have clerks on the clock.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Anybody want to make a motion?
Can I make one?
Sure.
I make a motion that we send this forward to the city council.
I second.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's do this by, actually, I will do one thing on discussion, is that my concern is where is this going to lead us to? Because, like Lynn, and I think I've expressed before, I came here because of the quaintness of Vero Beach.
Don't we have up to no more than 3 years? So
Wait a minute,
we can try it for a period of time.
Let me finish what I'm saying, Greg. Okay, then I'll give you a chance to talk. My concern is, it's a nickel-dime approach, and, the slashing that you've been talking about. And somewhere we're going to lose control of this quaintness. That's what concerns me. And we're just slowly eating away at it.
Yeah.
And, you got to make a stand somewhere. And personally, I'm opposed to commercialization of public facilities. I mean, I don't mind the naming rights on buildings and things like that. I think that's great. But when we start really stepping out to get a nickel here and a dime there, and considering the fact that Vero Beach is the second from the bottom in that survey that you did, as far as ad valorem taxes goes, and we're substantially below the median. I mean, we're about $1 million difference, right? If I remember right, as far as generating revenue. And I think there's a lot of pressure being put back on the Recreation Department to fund itself. So you get into what is the concept of who should be funding recreation in a municipality. And you've got a lot more experience, Jim, than anybody else. And typically it comes through a general revenue, I think, source of funding. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't support this ordinance. So I just wanted to speak before, we vote.
Greg, did you want to say something?
With the recent cut and the department itself, we've just got to have something coming from somewhere, even for a limited period of time. Just try it for so many months.
Okay. Anybody else? Sorry. All right, Rita, roll call.
Mrs. Dineno?
Yes, you had 2 seconds.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, I'm for it.
Mr. Holton?
Yes.
Mrs. Burdick?
Yes.
Ms. Redding?
No.
Mr. Yem?
No. All right, thank you. Now, moving on to the second. And I believe shark bait beach gear.
Yep, both
Right,
groups
Scott?
are here. Scott is here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Cavanis. I'm the president and owner of Shark Bait International. I reside at 35th Avenue Southwest. It's 740 and 35th Avenue Southwest in Vero Beach. I appreciate everybody's attention, and everybody had a really interesting, if I could speak just very briefly to Mr. Tripaldi's proposal. I agree with everybody had a very well-reasoned response to that, and it's a hard thing. When you were talking about doing force rank reduction with the police last year, I stood right here and proposed that you should come up with innovative entrepreneurial means to forestall something like that, because having a strong police department is crucial for a location like this. I think I'm on the beach every day. I get up in the morning and I get ready and I go to the beach and I come back and it's dark. I can tell you that what he's trying to do is to help generate money for the recreation department. It's very important, and that's kind of what I'm here to speak to you guys today about. If I could just really quickly pass out some information, I'm going to not try to turn this into a big thing.
Okay, while you're doing that, let me correct that vote. I don't know how you recorded it, but it's 3-2.
Thank you.
Susan alternate. She doesn't vote.
Okay, that's right. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
A step further. Just repeating. Or were you just sent?
You don't. That's all right. Thank you. You get your chance.
Doesn't make sense.
Yep. That's the question. Wait. Let me correct something, Scott. You brought up a good point. Tammy, since she made the motion and she's an alternate,
We need a second first.
And you are not filling in for anyone today, so I would ask that someone else restate the motion and make a new motion and vote on it.
okay. Thank you. Let me finish that up first, if I can. So does somebody want to restate the motion?
Rita, can you read the motion back to me, please?
Mrs. Donetto made a motion to pass the advertising option to the City Council. Mr. Holton seconded the motion.
I move that we agree on that motion as read.
Well, she can't make the motion, so you have to make a motion
I did make a
to
motion.
forward it.
I said I moved, didn't I?
Well, you made a motion on her motion.
All right. I move we accept the ordinance for the advertising on the lifeguard stands. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Send it forward. Just send it forward to City Council.
Can I help you?
Well, I thought that we were talking about the ordinance.
It got mixed up. I think really what Jim's looking for is the concept.
Yeah.
If I was on the commission, I would say I make a motion to forward the concept with recommendation to move forward with it to the City Council.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That sounds good.
That's it.
I make that motion.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the help.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Judy seconds. Now do roll call.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Holton?
Yes.
Mrs. Burdick?
Yes.
Ms. Redding?
No.
Mr. Yem?
No. All right, Scott, thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you for your time. Essentially what I do on the beach every day is I provide 4-diamond service for the Driftwood Resort, the Vero Beach Hotel and Spa, and Costa de Este Beach Resorts. We greet the guests. In my little handout that I gave you, there's an article that was published last year, and it kind of spoke to Mr. Tumso's and my partnership, which we had at the time, which has since been resolved, and we dissolved the relationship due to the conflict of interest that it was posing with the city. And Eric was really good about that. Couldn't ask for a better partner. Essentially, the way that I see development happening, if you bring in other people, you're kind of looking at this. Do you want this on your beach? Do you want that to be your beach? For me, that's an unacceptable lifestyle. My grandfather was an air traffic controller here in 1943. My mother's lived here for 15 years, something like that. And I wouldn't want to live here if I went to the beach and I saw that every day. I really wouldn't want to be involved in it. what I do with my services, and I'm presently employing 7 people. They're all going through lifeguard training. I'm open water lifeguard, rescue diver, emergency first responder. We're setting up with Sharkbait and a joint effort with the Vero Beach Lifeguard Association and Vero Beach Lifeguards. We're trying to open up a rescue diver certification program, which is going to be able to enable Vero Beach's lifeguards to extend their capabilities into the water to a more effective means. For example, there was a gentleman that was lost off of Vero South Beach several months ago. If there was a more reactionary force capable of going, kind of getting sidetracked from what I'm talking about. But so we're basically what Sharkbait's doing is all our employees, the 7 people, they're undergoing lifeguard training right now. Everybody should be able to be an asset on the beach. Where I'm presently providing services, and what I would like to do in my proposal is to provide services on South Beach, and not just umbrellas and chairs, but to be able to turn it into a venue where people can really go and enjoy themselves safely in a very nice, non-overly commercialized aspect. And this was Cosa de Este on Sunday. And this is the equipment that we have on the beach. Each one of those setups right there is $350. It's very high quality equipment. It's not something that you're going to use a season and throw it away. This stuff, these people have been manufacturing this equipment for 35 years, something like that. So, again, I want you to look at this.
There's some beach in Southie.
And then this is what your average citizen brings to the beach. And this picture was taken on Sunday as well. Okay? And this is just behind Waldo's, Driftwood. So to be able to provide this type of equipment and this atmosphere, and this is what I strive to provide. I'm not trying to turn Vero Beach and ruin the charm that is this place, because I wouldn't want to be here. I wouldn't want to be a part of it. I'd be embarrassed. So essentially what my proposal is to offer a percentage of the revenue generated with our business from the South Beach project to the city and to the recreation department, and hopefully more specifically to the lifeguards. Have that revenue earmarked directly to the lifeguards, because I'd hate to think that the revenue that we're generating is going to something that would be considered frivolous by a lot of people, which I know the city doesn't do.
Do you have a concept drawing of what your facility is going to look like?
Essentially, the way that I set up the beach, it's very difficult for me because the beach is a very fluid environment. Every day, from day to day, you have escarpments developing due to longitudinal rips. You have scalloping dunes that accrete from day to day. So what I try to do is, on a daily basis, we provide the most aesthetically pleasing beach scenario for somebody to come out. What's going to look best? And
what are you going to have specifically?
Well, what I proposed is to have a storage facility near the north end of the Humminston Park parking lot. It wouldn't even be on the beach. It would be in the parking lot where the tractor is presently stored.
South Beach.
Oh, on South Beach,
yeah,
but the north end of South Beach parking lot.
Austin.
I'm sorry.
Had me worried there for a minute.
And essentially what this would be is, and we would provide an ATV with a trailer to deploy and retrieve the gear on a daily basis. And during the normal hours of operation, that ATV would be retasked as a rescue vehicle for the lifeguards. Little win-win for everybody, because in my opinion, having one rescue vehicle for the 3 beaches is really not as effective as it could be. When Ms. Stern was bit off of the driftwood last year, it took a while for people to respond from South Beach, and there was a lot of responders that eventually got there. But having been there from the onset with Mr. Tombstone, having the ability to react faster is crucial, and having that extra ATV could make a big difference in somebody's life.
What's the cost going to be for these items you're going to rent?
The price structure is essentially what we're going to do is charge what the market will bear and not a penny more. In pure entrepreneurial spirit, we want to be
What are
able
you going
to
to start out with? I mean,
it'll probably be $20 a day for the umbrellas and chairs, and at $350 a setup, that's a very reasonable price for high-quality equipment. One of the things that I would like to do, I would actually like to take Mr. Tripaldi up on some of his advertising and do a very nondescript, not bright, blazing, if that ordinance should pass.
Just as a comment real quick,
I'm kind of
before we get off too far, one of the questions before you will be, do we need to do an RFP to find a sole source provider, or do we want to open it up and have multiple providers? I think the picture that he showed first could be an outcome of have multiple providers. If you did an RFP, you could possibly control what you have on there. Now, I would never anticipate you would have 10,000 chairs out there like he's showing or whatever that number is. But, and I'm only saying this because from my concept, I don't care which way you go or what your recommendation would be back to the city council, but I don't think we need to be exposing what his pricing mechanism would be and that kind of stuff. I think it's a good idea that he is telling you some of the benefits that his firm would give, because I'm sure he would put that in a request for proposal.
how is he different than the hot dog guy? I mean, we didn't do an RFP for hot dog guys.
Well, from our standpoint, it had been administrative. We didn't think the dog guy was going to be a proliferation as you're seeing here. And at that particular point, we can also give business licenses to sort of control what goes on the parking lot. And then the hot dog guy, we even have gotten down to when he's there, he can't compete with the local, he can't sell pizzas and that kind of stuff because we have a pizza place there. So we can control that a little bit more than we can. When we started talking about the chairs and the umbrellas, it sort of grew from there to other services that can help lifeguards and that kind of stuff. So I think it became much more of a business opportunity.
Has hot dog guy come before council?
His contract will next Tuesday.
Okay, who sets the requirement whether or not an RFP required?
Yeah, we could ask that at the same time.
I thought we already talked about this with the hot dog stand, that we will give licenses to anyone who meets the guidelines.
That's what I thought we wanted to do.
We had a big discussion about this. It's not going to be the only hot dog vendor out there, that you guys aren't going to choose one hot dog. If we're going to do this, it's going to be anyone who meets
Ours
the
is
guidelines.
the food products. We did not want to have people in the park selling food products that compete with those who have permanent stores in those areas.
I think we need a guideline, though, whether or not an RFP is necessary.
Yeah.
Because if an RFP is necessary, then, these presentations these people are made.
Well, this one's a little different because we're looking for the recommendation on this one. But I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, but if you're going to require an RFP, then RFP will establish, whether there's competition or what's going to go on. So I think we need to know whether or not an RFP is even required.
Is that what you want to do? Again, we're looking for you.
Well, you're sending me a mixed message.
No, are you asking me what my recommendation is? That what you're saying, or is it something? What we're trying to do, Mr. Chairman, is send to you, to the Recreation Commission, opportunities to try to generate revenue. We're looking for you all to tell us how you would like to sort of structure what that would be, if in fact you want to explore it. Those are things that you may not want to explore. In this particular case, we've had 2 vendors that have come to us that are here, and so what we wanted to do is have them talk to you all, and then you decide, A, is this something we want? Do we want even to have vendors on the beach, I guess, is the bottom line to all this. And then if you do, how do you want us to proceed in that?
So do you want us to, I'll make them that we consider vendors on the beach. Now, how does that break out to whether this commission determining individually, or does an RFP control it?
We would take that to the city council, determine at that point if an RFP would be required, if that's what you want to do. If your recommendation is that A, we have no objection to the chairs vendors being on the beach, and B, we would recommend that there be an RFP to it, then, I just don't want any option or alternative to go that we bypassed you in that. You may want to say you don't really care how you arrive if you want a vendor on the beach.
All right, again, I'll make a motion. Have a vendor to supply chairs, cabanas.
Well, can we open this up for conversation, please,
Well, it will be.
before we vote?
Well, it will be. Okay, is there a second on that motion?
I second it.
Okay, now we open it up for discussion.
I would like to ask him now, you're talking about a percentage. Is there any guarantee of how much income there would be yearly to the recreation department, to the city?
Well, it's a very difficult thing operating on the beach on a daily basis. I can tell you that we're at the whim of seasonality issues with tourism, and we're also dealing with weather conditions.
Well, the reason I ask is I was benchmarking Martin County. They just signed a contract with the Oceanside Beach Equipment Company, and on that contract it's very explicit as to the type of material, the color, and it also has a bottom line of how much guarantee they get each year from that vending.
I agree with that. Anytime you bring up the words percentage of revenue, it scares the heck out of me, especially in some of these businesses that can be cash businesses. I mean, we can't be idiots here. To think that, I don't know if we do a percentage of revenue. Do we do that with the JC Beach Restaurant?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
And what percentage of revenue do we receive from them?
I don't recall, but it's in the contract. But there is a percentage.
How much, just out of curiosity, what do we get from them every year?
About between 38 and 42,000.
Okay. I agree with you that I think this needs a lot more study. I think we need to know a bottom line. I think we need to look at uniformity of what would be available. I feel very uncomfortable on voting on something like this without having some of those things in place. And I am absolutely against anything that is percentage of revenue, especially with some of these businesses that can be cash.
Okay, that's not part of this motion. This motion is just the concept of having beach chairs, cabanas, umbrellas. It's not anything specific as to an individual.
I disagree. I disagree with you, Dick. I think that we have to have discussions like this in order to talk about having a concept. All these things come into play.
Okay.
Well, if this went out for bid, that would be in the RFP, right? That you would request, I don't want to say cost plus, but you know what I mean.
Yes, ma'am. When we would go out for proposals, we would try to be as specific as possible. For example, in the signage issue, we're going to put in there that, we're going to control the type of signage. We would have the ordinance. That would be something that could be a recommendation from the Recreation Commission as to how you would want to do it. Our perception is, and in our discussion, is that we would not want to have real light chairs out there flying around on the beach just because a little bit of wind comes. So we know that we're going to have to get down and get to more detail on that. But to be very honest, we don't know that much about it, but we will learn a lot more if, in fact, this is something that you all want to permit as a vendor on the beach, and do you want to have multiple vendors, however you want to do it. This is really a very it's a concept, and this, if you all tell us that having a vendor on the beach, providing chairs and umbrellas is something that is acceptable, we'll move forward. We'll figure out how to draw up the RFP to make sure that we have material there that is going to be presentable for our beaches. We'll probably limit it to one beach to begin with to try to make sure, again, that we're testing it out. And in this particular case, we could probably do a 1-year contract, and we'll know what we're doing. But when you look at our hotels, as Scott says, he services a couple of the hotels. They have pretty nice equipment they're putting out there on the beach, and I'm not sure of all the formalities of how you rent that stuff, but they're pretty attractive. and we would probably go back, and Rob and John O'Brien would come up with some way of drawing those specifications up.
Can we include in our motion that we would get a chance to see the contract before?
If you vote on what Dick is saying here, that you approve the concept, we will be coming back to you with how we would set and propose to make this work. And if you have no problem with multiple vendors, let us know that. If you think that an RFP is the best way to go, let us know that. And otherwise, we're going to be our own creative self, and we would prefer to have as much of that ironed out when it comes back to you.
Okay, but right now the motion on the floor, which has been seconded, is regarding the concept only.
That's about it so far.
Beach equipment, I guess, is really what we're talking about. It's not Scott individually. We're not recommending that at all. All this is just addressing the concept, is what this vote's going to be on.
I think the average age of our population sort of lends itself to this kind of service. It's heavy lifting to bring an umbrella and chairs and a cooler and all that stuff from your car. I think the community would appreciate this.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Scott?
May I speak to your concern? The picture that I showed you was a picture that was somebody that actually did the bottom line. They won the bid. They got the beach. That's what they did to the beach. And when you're talking about the aesthetic aspect of the area versus trying to find who's going to pay the most for that stretch of beach, that's what's going to happen to your beach. There's when you get somebody that actually cares about what's going on out here, it's a whole different story. The Costa de Este Beach Resort, they serve food on the beach, and that beach is cleaner than South Beach because we clean the beach every day. They do beach cleanups. People, the concerned citizens, will do beach cleanups. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they all do beach cleanups, but we clean the beach every day. It's in our best interest to ensure that the beaches are clean. We're stewards of the beach. We're also a concierge to the city because everybody that comes to that beach, we market the city to them. Oh, they have kids. What age range? Where is the best place for those kids to be? They want to try some other dining. Where's the best place for them to eat? They need other goods and services. Where do they go and procure these goods and services? We're there for them. But when you're speaking to, you're absolutely dead set against doing a percentage basis. We found, and the resorts have found, because my partnerships have been very strong with the resorts by working on a percentage basis, that you work together as a team to provide 4-diamond service on the beach. If you just bid it out and somebody's just in charge and they're paying, say, $400,000 a year.
I hate to cut you off, but we're way over time.
Okay.
I also have Kim down from North Carolina who came down here just to talk to you guys.
I appreciate that. Let's get this vote. I mean, is it on the same subject?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we let Kim speak, and then we'll table the vote for a motion. For a minute here.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kim Minot, and my company is Seaside Cabanas. I'm from Windermere, Florida, and I summer in Highlands. I have a home there, and I recently sold my home in Windermere, and I'm looking to relocate in Vero Beach. I have 11 years' experience in the beach rental business. Currently, I own and operate Highlands Canoe Rentals. Some of y'all may be familiar with Highlands. It's a very high-end resort community with values and standards very similar to Vero Beach. I know there's a lot of Vero Beach residents have second homes in Highlands. Are you guys familiar with Highlands?
Yes.
My canoe rental shop is next to On the Veranda Restaurant on Franklin Road. It's a 4-star restaurant. I have a collectible shop, canoe rentals, kayak rentals, and it's a short season. And so I'm looking to locate to Vero Beach and start a beach business. Andrew Feigl, it's a 5-star restaurant, and Andrew Feigl is the owner and operator of the restaurant. and he wrote a recommendation. And I've got a presentation I wanted to set up, so if I could give you guys the recommendation, if you don't mind reading it real quickly, while I set up my presentation, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
How should I set this board up so that they can see it?
I'll open it for you. Go ahead.
You're going to hold it for me?
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, how about if we do that?
Yeah.
Here, Greg, you can see it first. See?
All right. Thank you.
This is just a little presentation that I put together to kind of give you guys a visual of what my vision was and the type of, the level, the quality level that I would be at. We'll just start with, that's what I would expect my staff to wear, a white polo, khaki shorts. It's the umbrella, canvas on the umbrellas, the cabanas. We have the choice of many colors. I'm very open to any input if y'all have any. Can you see me? If you have, we've got lots of choices. I think the green is it's nostalgic. I like it a lot. The red is nice. There's lots of choices, and I'm open to any input y'all may have if you have any. These are the steamer chairs. They're very nostalgic too. I really love them. They're made of wood and the umbrella canvas. And I also have the option of the double wrapped lounge chairs. I was thinking maybe start out with both of them, see which ones work better, which ones the guests prefer more. The tiki hut you see over there is what I would like to build to operate the service out of. That's a picture of a shed that I would like to build to store my umbrellas and cabanas in. And when I talked to Rob about retail sales, he was very particular in the type of things that would be sold. And I've brought samples of it today. I would like to show you. It's a very high-end suntan lotion that I'm really excited about. It's absolutely natural. Charlie Richards is the creator, and if I could lay this up and y'all could just kind of see. It's just a beautifully packaged, all-natural product. Charlie Richards, I phoned him about carrying it, and he said he would be delighted for me to have the right to retail sales with us. So I'm really excited about it. It's just a very product I think you would be proud to have in your city. These shirts I would like to carry here. I carry these in Highlands. I get them out of California. And if you just wouldn't mind feeling that, let everybody feel that. It's just a very high quality cotton. They've been a real big hit for me in Highlands. Highlands has the same type of clientele that Vero Beach has. So I'm real happy about these. I carry them in these two colors in Highlands. I'm going to have these two colors in a hot pink if I'm allowed to be here to say Seaside, Vero Beach. And they've just been a big hit. I'm really excited about them. And I just brought these things so you could see the level of quality of the things that I would carry and just get an idea of
Can I get you to go to the microphone? I'm not picking you up here.
I'm sorry, what?
I need you to speak in the microphone. We're not picking you up.
Over there.
I'm sorry.
Here, you want to use this mic?
So, well, that's really my presentation, and I'm very interested in South Beach Park and maybe later on JC Park. And so thank you for your time and your consideration, and that's it. Thank you.
All right, wait a minute. Just hang on a second. We get to ask you questions.
Oh, okay.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. And now, questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
I don't want to be offensive in any way, but to be honest with you, putting a tiki hut on the beach reminds me of Daytona Beach, and that is something I would not like to see.
Well, I discussed that with Rob, and, there's other options to that. That is a very attractive one. I'd gone down to South Beach Park and kind of thought of a place that it would fit, like right off the boardwalk coming off where the bathrooms and the Coke machines are, right to the right. But again, if that is something that the city doesn't want, it's not a necessity. You have to have something to work under on the beach, to run a business out of. And so I'm open to any suggestions you may have if the tiki hut is not something that you would want there.
In your defense, really, it was kind of tough for you to come in and present now just what we've been talking about for over an hour about the beach already, even with ads, and then this is to possibly be added to it. That makes it tough.
Anybody else?
Yeah, what about insurance for all this stuff? And how are we going to be protected if something happens, a city?
Well, depending on the route that you guys go with, one of the major things whenever we do any kind of agreements of this sort would be to have the insurances to protect the city and make sure that we are listed and endorsed just to protect the city. And then the other thing, of course, is with both of these programs, whatever we decide, we would also have to make sure that the equipment is safe and sound and all those other things.
Yeah, I'm worried about this shed. A hurricane comes. Goodbye.
Again, those standards would have to be satisfactory to planning and everyone else that it pertains to.
Where would they be stored at?
Where would they be stored at?
That's what that shed is. But I think they'll all be part of P, right? You're going to
Well, if we do an RFP,
carve out the things you don't like.
It sounds like you're moving in that direction.
And the insurance would be, and the city additionally insured is
It's standard.
automatic.
Right.
Rob, I have a question for you.
Maybe you could take your thing down so we
okay.
can see Rob.
Oh, do you really want to do that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do any other cities do something like this on their own, beach rentals out of the recreation department, or do they all outsource it?
When I looked at it, it looked like most cases they were outsourced. In most cases, but there were a lot of beaches who are doing it for sure in Florida.
Who are some of our neighbors that do their own?
The ones that I saw were, of course, your Cocoa beaches. The ones I also saw were like St. Pete Beach, I think Delray Beach.
So the recreation department is doing that on their own.
Well, those were the ones. No, they're not doing their own. They outsourced. All those that I mentioned are outsourced. Pretty much. Yeah, most of the ones I saw were outsourced. Is what I'm saying.
We did years ago when I was growing up here. We could rent a raft and an umbrella.
Yeah. From Charlie Golnick.
Wow, and he went out and rescued people in the same process.
Same time, yeah. He did it all.
He did it all, huh?
Yeah.
Learned something from that, huh?
Yes.
All right, I got to keep this moving.
Okay, I just wanted to say, she was wondering, you were wondering where the shed might be. When I had gone to the park, I was thinking that, the block storage building in the park, maybe on the side of that, somewhere off to the side would be an attractive storage thing, but someplace where it wasn't, intrusive or offensive to anybody. And the other thing that I did not say that I wanted to say was that certainly every morning and then in the morning, the garbage and seaweed would definitely be removed when opening, and in the evening, the beach cleaned again. And so I didn't say that, and I wanted to say that. But as far as the tiki hut goes, I'm very open to any suggestions or input on an alternative to that. And I'm open to the equipment is all top quality, beautiful equipment, and I'm very open to what the city thinks would be a nice color. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Thank you.
Let me amend my motion. And you're going to have to see if you like my amendment. Is that my motion basically was to consider the concept, but I think I want to add to it because obviously you have multiple vendors interested, that we use an RFP process which will in turn delineate their ideas in writing on a proposal, which then you can sort through and come back with a recommendation, I guess, to us to go to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the amendment would be just to add an RFP be part of the process.
I second it.
Okay, if you can go ahead and do the roll call now, please.
Mrs. Jones?
No.
Mr. Holton?
No.
Mrs. Burdick?
Yes.
Mrs. Redding?
No.
Mr. Yam?
Yes.
The motion fails 3-2.
Okay. Then moving on.
Just got too much going right now.
Item D. New recycled dedicatory benches. We have somebody to do that presentation.
I can tell you about these recycled benches because I actually picked them out. We donated 5 benches, and 2 of them came to the city, and we got them up in Melbourne at the recycling plant up there, and they cost $500 a piece.
Yep.
Is there a proposal? I have no idea.
Basically, all it was just Nanette Haynes said, I need to discuss making a dedicatory bench standard to be included in the master plan for the dog exercise area. The garden club benches were installed there, and I have someone else who wants to donate one of the same type. Because these benches are different from our standard park benches, we thought it wise to have a standard for dedicatory benches for this area approved by the Recreation Commission and or City Council. What are your thoughts on making the recycled benches the standard for dedicatory benches in the dog exercise area? And that's what she wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah, my thoughts are to table it until she's available to make a presentation, rather than us trying to interpret what her thinking is.
Thank you to Bobby and her treasure as well for doing this.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a good job, but I think we need Annette to make her presentation. All right. Update on Recreation Commission subcommittees. I think probably bypass that, considering the time element we have going on here. Recreation Directors Matters, Junior Staff Recognition.
Really quick, the Junior Staff Recognition Breakfast, thank you all who came. And Judy, thank you for sponsoring it. Kids were really appreciative. And the summer camp just wound up last week. The day camps wound up last week with still having fun in the sun this week and cheer camp, and those seem to be going very well, knock on wood. And then I'll let Patty tell you about the circus recap, but I will say from my end to all who came to the shows, thank you very much for coming. Go ahead, Patty.
Yes, thank you. All I can say is smashing success, I believe. Kids had a great time. We had tons of people, tons of children participating. And thanks for coming.
Were you able to break even financially?
Financially, yes. You're going to break even. The expenses off of, when I talk about breaking even, I go with part-time, overtime, and the expenses for any kind of materials. And what I also will throw in there, too, is that Patty has put together a letter campaign to raise funds for not only the circus, but also for the holiday drama. And she's raised about...
We're over 4,000.
And going up.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it paid for
So
through those,
you did
through
break
the
even for
performances.
that? Okay.
Performance is paid for, and that's in addition, too. So that's
Because
a positive
I
sign.
had heard there was quite a bit of overtime for some people.
Yep.
And I just wondered if that was all covered under ticket sales and donations.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, Chairman's matters, I have nothing at this point. Members' matters,
I'm good.
anybody?
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You're getting close to the end. Just to let you know, we're going to be throwing these type of things at you all, and we're looking for some creative comeback that you all want to look at. I guess Rob and I and Patty and everybody else in the recreation, as well as the other departments, feel obligated to try to bring concepts, and if they don't fit with what we think is keep Vero, then let's kick them out. And that's fine, but I feel an obligation to keep trying to do that because it is something that as we go into the future, we're going to have to fund these things, and I think it's important
Jim,
we do it.
you know, we do have a brand new committee that's doing fundraising.
Yes.
And I would like to give that committee an opportunity to bring some recommendations to the table. And before we start, I would suggest before things are thrown at us and we take time to look at every single thing, that maybe an overall plan is developed for the beaches rather than, again, just, spinning our wheels at these meetings. And maybe maybe you and Rob need to present to us some sort of plan for the beaches, and then we make a recommendation based on that rather than these little enterprises coming in and wanting it. Maybe they become part of your plan, but to have a plan for the beaches.
One thing I was going to say real quick, too, and we'll definitely take that under advisement. I know that Dick is in charge of a beach subcommittee with them having some number of ideas as well, so that could always be taken to them for the future.
Because I
for
hate
however
to
long
say
they're
no to every
running.
single one, but if it's part of a big plan, it's different. Some of these small businesses might have an opportunity to be part of a bigger plan, but I think we need a plan.
And
in
maybe
place.
the fundraising committee could invite some of these folks back as well. And talk to them.
That's a good point right there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Actually, you can go a little further on it.
Move for adjournment.
I so move.
Somebody has to second. I second.
Also,
We're adjourned.